Hey guys, welcome back to Supposedly Fun. I'm Greg, here today to do a book tag video. I had not planned on doing a book tag video today, but I got online and saw that Brian at Bookish had done this. I was not tagged in it, but I wanted to do it because it's the Doughnut Book Tag. And who doesn't love donuts? I love donuts, and I thought the prompts were really interesting. The original video was done by Josh over at Literary Gladiators. I will link his video down below. But let's get into it. We have a bunch of prompts to do. The first one is the classic donut. So what is a classic book that you feel everyone needs to read? I had an idea for this one, but I feel like it's a classic that pretty much everybody has read. And I bet you can probably guess which one I'm talking about. So instead, I'm going to go with something I finally got around to reading last year. It's The Age of Innocence by Edith Wharton. I love this book a lot more than I thought I would. I thought I would like it, but I didn't expect to love it. And I think Wharton has a really good, solid reputation in the literary world, but I feel like she deserves to have an even better reputation than she does. I think if you like Jane Austen, and I know a lot of us do, you would absolutely love Edith Wharton. And I think this book, The Age of Innocence, is a great example of that because what Edith Wharton does here is she uses the framework of a love story to make some really sharp observations about society, and it's really brilliantly done. So, prompt number 2. The Vanilla Frosted. What is a simple but engaging work? I am going to go with Elemental P by Mark Dunn. This is a short, clever little book that you could read in a single afternoon. It manages the mean feat of being charming and also being a scathing takedown of totalitarianism. So how many books can say that? It is an epistolary novel, and as the story progresses, Mark Dunn has to avoid using more and more letters of the alphabet, and the way he does it is very clever. So that's Elemental P. Prompt number 3. Chocolate Frosted, your second favorite work from your favorite writer. Now, the topic of my favorite writer is kind of fraught because traditionally it has been Kurt Vonnegut, but E.M. Forster has been nipping at his heels, and I think he's actually surpassed him. In fact, thinking about it today, it is E.M. Forster. So, as you are probably aware, because I keep talking about it, my favorite book by E.M. Forster is Maurice. My second favorite book is actually arguably his most known book of all. It's Howard's End. Now, this book explores the divide between two different families. The Wilcoxes are capitalists and very business-minded types, and the Schlegels are very idealistic and artistic and don't really care very much about social conventions. It is a book that deals with humanity in a very intelligent, resonant way. I absolutely love it. Its message of only connect is fantastic. Prompt number 4, Strawberry Frosted Donut, a lesser known or studied work from a known writer you feel should be read and studied more frequently. Well, I'm tempted to say Maurice by E.M. Forster, but I talk about that book enough. I could also say Persuasion by Jane Austen because I think that is an unappreciated classic that she wrote. Most people always talk about Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, Emma, but Persuasion is a really solid book. However, I'm going to go with Half-Blood Blues by S.E. Adugin. Most people talk about Washington Black when they talk about S.E. Adugin, and I think Half-Blood Blues is a far superior book. So my elevator pitch for Half-Blood Blues is that it's cabaret crossed with Amadeus with a dash of atonement, but told with black characters. It's so good. Prompt number 5, The Glazed Donut, a writer that immediately immersed you. Well, one of my favorite openings to a novel of all time is The Virgin Suicides by Jeffrey Eugenides. I have an old movie tie-in. I don't usually like movie tie-ins, but at the time this came out, I got this in about the year 2000, and I wasn't feeling very picky at the time. Mostly I wanted to read the book, and this was really the only copy of it that I could get. They have some really beautiful editions of it that are out now. But anyway, the opening of this book is kind of disturbing and sad, but it's also captivating. I sometimes go back and read the opening as if it's a short story. I am not going to read the whole thing, but I will give you the opening sentence. On the morning the last Lisbon daughter took her turn at suicide, it was Mary this time, and sleeping pills like Therese, the two paramedics arrived at the house knowing exactly where the knife drawer was, and the gas oven, and the beam in the basement from which it was possible to tie a rope. Not happy, but oh my god, and it just builds and builds to the point where you can't put this book down. How much did I love The Virgin Suicides? I have a signed first edition of it. I saw Jeffrey Eugenides speaking with Jennifer Egan at the 92nd Street Y when I was still living in New York City, and there it is. His signature is just as crazy as mine. So, fun fact for you. Okay, prompt number 6. The Jelly Donut, a work that contained more than you expected. I feel like this could go to so many different things and I could approach it from so many different angles that I was almost overwhelmed. I am going to go with A Place for Us by Fatima Farheen Mirza, which is a book that I just recently read and have been raving about ever since. The reason I want to go with this is because I didn't expect to relate to it so personally, and I really did. In my review, which I will link down below, I talk more at length about this, but I am a foster father to a teenage boy, and I feel like I live in an environment where everything you say really matters. If you say the wrong thing, or you don't show support quickly or enthusiastically enough, or it can be devastating. And you can have the best intentions, you can mean well, but everything you do matters. And it feels kind of like a fraught situation. It's a hard thing for me to even put into words, and yet Mirza portrays it so perfectly, and it profoundly impacted me reading it. It was not something I ever thought I would see echoed back at me, and yet here it was in this book. So I'm going with that. Prompt number 7, The Boston Cream Donut, a scholarly work you would recommend to a casual reader. Well, I agree with Brian over at Bookish, who said that, generally speaking, a scholarly work is not a great idea to recommend to a casual reader because it's just going to put them off. But there are exceptions, and I absolutely agree with Brian on that. So, here's a fun fact. I used to never read nonfiction at all. I was a fiction guy through and through, and I thought all nonfiction was boring. But the book that taught me not to do that was Tony Horwitz's book, Confederates in the Attic. Now, I was in a college course in the Civil War, and we were assigned just a single chapter of it. We didn't even have the book. The teacher just gave us out photocopies of the chapter so we could read it. And I was so captivated that I ran out and got a copy of the book and read it. It is really interesting. It's a look at how the Civil War is very much still alive in the South, and this book is very much still relevant today. And it's the book that taught me not to be afraid of nonfiction. I read a lot of nonfiction now, and I think that is the type of experience a casual reader could use. So that is the scholarly book that I would recommend to them. Prompt number 8. The Cruller, a work that makes you think of France. Well, I don't want to say Giovanni's Room because I've been talking about this book non-stop lately because it's Pride Month, but maybe it's because I've been talking about this book a lot lately because it's Pride Month that I can't get it out of my head now, so I'm just going to lean into it, and I'm going to say Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. Prompt number 9. The Powdered Sugar Donut, a work that left you with evident emotions. Well, if we're talking about negative emotions, it would be Adam by Ariel Schrag, The Spy Who Loved Me by Ian Fleming, and Angels and Demons by Dan Brown. Those are the only 3 books that I have ever thrown across the room in frustration and anger. But if we're talking about a little more positive emotions or like a spectrum of emotions, I'm going to go with The Poisonwood Bible by Barbara Kingsolver. Mostly because this is the book that really put me through the ringer, emotion-wise. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that one of the characters really reminded me of one of my sisters. And she would make me laugh out loud and smile, and when the book's tragedy hit, it hit me doubly hard because I had this personal connection to a character who was wrapped up in it, and that connection left me reeling for days. It's a very good book on its own. It's just that this character absolutely reminded me of my little sister. Prompt number 10, Cider Donut, the perfect reading material to read in front of a fire in autumn. Well, I mean, anything. Any book. Pick a book. I'm not really picky about what I read in front of the fire. It's just the act of reading in front of a fire that I really like. But I feel like I should choose something. So how about this? Let's see if I can grab something without causing a lot of pain to my bookshelves. Oh, The Berlin Stories by Christopher Isherwood. That would be a fun book to sit in front of a fire and read. So if you are unfamiliar with it, this book has the inspiration for Cabaret in it. It's very good. It's a portrait of life in Germany leading up to World War II, when Christopher Isherwood had been living in Germany leading up to World War II. So it is 2 related novels, The Last of Mrs. Norris and Goodbye to Berlin. So there you go. My random pick ended up being something good. Okay. Number 11. The Doughnut Hole, a collection of short, accessible works or sections that you enjoyed. Well, I feel like a short story collection is the obvious choice for this. I tried to think about some essay collections, but I kept going back to the idea of a short story collection. And if we're going to talk about a short story collection, Interpreter of Maladies by Jhumpa Lahiri has been traditionally one of my favorites. The first short story in here, A Temporary Matter, is one of my all-time favorite short stories, kind of similar to the opening of The Virgin Suicides. It's something I go back to and reread periodically just for fun. Number 12, Raspberry Frosted, a book you would recommend to Homer Simpson. Well, I would say Homer Simpson is the consummate casual reader, so whatever you pick has to have a lot of pictures. And if we're talking about picture books, I'm going to go with The Dot by Peter H. Reynolds. This is it's a recent favorite. It's been published, it's sometime in the last 15 years. I can't remember exactly when. But I frequently give it as a graduation gift. It's kind of in the same vein, but it's not Of the Places You'll Go, which everybody gives as a graduation gift. The idea is just make a mark and see where it takes you. I love it. Okay, prompt number 13. The most important one of all. What is your favorite kind of donut? Well, without a doubt, blueberry cake. If I'm feeling down and I need a little pick-me-up or something to make me smile, it's got to be something with sprinkles, because sprinkles make me happy. But absolutely my favorite is the blueberry cake donut. So there you go. And prompt number 14, time to make the donuts as per Dunkin' Donuts. So who do you tag? Well, if you're watching this video, I'm going to tag you. I'm tagging everybody. So if you'd like to do it, go forth and do it. And I mean, come on, who doesn't love donuts? As always, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you have read any of these books or have other recommendations based on these books, or want to react and tell me how you would answer one of these, I would love to hear that as well. As always, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. If you're subscribed, you are the best. If not, I hope you enjoyed this enough to follow along. I will be back. Until then, happy reading.